Hey guys, I'm gonna get on my cell phone because I don't know if you guys can actually hear me. Let's see. Can you hear me? Okay, well it's low on this side. I'm actually on my laptop. I've never used my laptop for any kind of live videos. I almost combed my hair for you guys, but decided not to. Um, Anyway, I just wanted to say, my hair is crazy. I just wanted to say that I'm super, 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 hey Jay, I'm super excited. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. The process took a very long time. Usually I've, published my books within like a 30-day period or maybe a little bit more. But this time, since I had not experienced what I was writing about, it took me a little bit longer because I wanted to make sure I researched and collected testimonies and stuff like that. So I had, I've worked for family services, and, we were trained and certified to, or I was, through the FAST program for families and schools together. And I was a parent liaison that sat in counseling groups with parents when, their kids were going through things and stuff like that. So, on a psychological side, I understood, what caused the affairs. And then I was going to school for communication and learning disorders, so I took several, different sociology and psychology classes, to understand, how people think and why things happen and why they do the things that they do. So anyway, I um, I went ahead and wrote the beginning of the book, and um, I mean the beginning of the book wasn't hard. But thank you, Andrea. The beginning of the book was not hard. That wasn't the hard part. It was like assessing the book. I knew, the three characteristics in the book that I wanted to put in there, narcissistic behaviors, sociopathic, and self-defeated behaviors. Self-defeated behaviors are the biggest characteristics in people that do have affairs. I mean, and it stems, and you'll have to read the book because it stems from a lot of stuff for you to get there. Um, so anyway, I did that whole outline, went over, talked about a little bit about me, explained, my upbringing and stuff like that. And, you know, a lot of people asked, why were you writing this book? Did you ever have the affair? No, I didn't have the affair. I was, it's, again, you'll have to read the book. And then explain, that I was married at a young age. And, although my parents are still married, we make ridiculous choices as, young 20-year-olds thinking we know everything at that time. So I got divorced, and, there became, that's when my actual life journey began. And I did, make some bad choices. We all do. I mean, I learned from them and I grew, and I didn't make those choices again. But learned behavior, being in a relationship with someone with a bipolar or manic depressant illness, um, and having three personalities, so it was a multiple personality situation as well. So I had to go through classes and try to go to counseling, to keep this person calm. So psychologically, yes, I'm very well informed. And so when I started to write the book, it was because I had previously wrote relationship books. And so people would come to me and talk to me and say, hey, Lisa, I just went through this, or what do you think? Do you think this person really, cares about me, or do you think that they're just, messing around, or do you believe that what he says is true, or what she says is true? Because women and men, there's no, there's no preferable side. I mean, both sides, have affairs and or are abusive and toxic and stuff like that. So anyway, I had a lot of friends that would come to me, or if I was at a gathering, they would find out, I wrote relationship books and would ask me questions and really started telling me different stories about their lives. And I started to realize that there was more toxic relationships, and there was more relationships built on, affairs. Um, and it's, like I said, I mean, I didn't write the book to judge anyone. That wasn't my intention. I didn't, nowhere in the book do I say like someone's wrong or right for doing, what they do. Everybody has their reasons, but it was my choice to write the book to explain to people oh, Jay, I'm sorry. I wanted to write the book so that people would understand where the affair stems from. It doesn't come from you as the person. If you're married to someone that had an affair, it has nothing in the world to do with you. And I know I mean, it makes you feel worthless, or it makes you feel self-defeated, and it makes you feel less of a person and stuff like that. But that it has nothing, thank you. It has nothing to do with you as a person. It's something within that person that's actually having the affair. So I kept thinking, like, how many times did I hear someone say, oh my God, this person, I caught him cheating, or we were going to get married and he was seeing his ex, or it's just ongoing. Somebody's always telling me a story about the same situation, and feeling like they don't matter. I heard a lot of people, both, like I said, men and women, saying, I feel ugly inside. um, you know maybe if I was happier, maybe if I had a better job, maybe if I mean, it's just ridiculous things. Maybe if I was more stylish, or maybe if I was older or younger. People just start to analyze themselves and think, what is it about me that caused this person to betray me, when it actually has nothing to do with the person that you're with. You can be with the most amazing person that gives you the world, makes you feel good about yourself, and still, if you have an affair, it's because you're lacking something inside. It's a choice. So, I mean, a lot of things stem from childhood traumas, neglect, molestation, child abuse, or when you're an adult, a young adult, domestic violence. It'll bring your self-esteem down drastically. Abandoned by your parent, and you're raised by someone else, your self-worth is gone because you can't figure out why. Why did my parent not want me? So you're always looking for that reassurance, and it doesn't matter if it's a negative reassurance. It doesn't matter if you get caught. The whole thing was, how did it make me feel at that time? So anyway, I wrote the beginning of the book, and then I had individuals volunteer to give me their testimonies. And when they gave me their testimonies, I had to read them and edit it. And I tell you what, reading the stories, they're not very lengthy, but they're very detailed. And like I said, I mean, whether you were on the victim side or you were the actual perpetrator, each side is painful, because the perpetrator doesn't see that he's doing anything to hurt someone else. They see it as they're doing it to fulfill something that they're lacking within themselves. So they're not even thinking about who they're married to or who they're involved with. All they're thinking about is, this is going to make me feel better. This is what I need. It's like a drug. It's like I mean, it's like a void inside of you. And, some people have to have alcohol daily, and it gives them that euphoric feeling, and they don't think about certain things anymore. Well, that's what the affair is. The affair is a euphoric feeling. It's a lustful feeling. It's being with someone for the first time kind of feeling. And so, again, I'm not by any means trying to say it's okay. I'm just trying to explain those things. And there's different kinds of affairs. I mean, some are very over the top toxic, and some are more of a friendship type of affair. So anyway, after I got the testimonies, I edited them and I put them in the book with what I had already had. I mean, I think I had the beginning of the book for a year already, and so I had worked on that, and really made sure that I was giving facts and stuff like that. Again, the beginning of the book gives all the information of the personalities of the individuals that are or that have been prone to have affairs. I mean, anybody can have an affair. It doesn't matter if you've had a drastic situation or not. I mean, it's up to you. It's a choice. But majority of the people that I've talked to that have come to me to talk about relationships have definitely had an experience. And when I go into detail and say, oh, well, did this person go through this, or how was, their in their 20s, did they go through this? Were their parents there? Did they experience abuse or neglect? Was there any kind of domestic violence? I mean, did they have nurturing? Was one of the parents missing from their lives as, growing up? Some people don't have their moms growing up, and some people don't have a dad. Either way, you're lacking that nurturing. And people think that children are like, people don't realize that children are affected. They think, oh, okay, they're just going to bounce back. Children bounce back and they go through the motions with you, but as adults, it stays in them. It's a deep rooted thing that they hide, and they hide it deep in them. So anytime they're uncomfortable, if they experience something traumatic, if it's a song, if it's a certain food, if it's a scent, some of those things will set off people and bring that rooted feeling of worthlessness out. And then they go and they, look for someone that isn't their spouse, so that they can, fulfill that empty feeling. So it might not make sense to you, but once you read the book, and I'm hoping you buy the book. If you don't want to buy it, great. I've written several books and I've done really well with, purchases and stuff like that. This one, I mean, like I said, after the testimonies, I wrote characteristics and the way people, have affairs. And I mean, first it was their personalities, testimonies, characteristics of the affair. When you read the characteristics, it all makes sense. It falls together. There's people with sexual addictions that have affairs. And it doesn't mean that they just love sex. They just can't live without sex. Thank you. Doesn't mean anything like that. Doesn't mean that they're just dying to have sex all day long. Most of the time when people, experience a sexual addiction, it's because they were molested as children, or had some kind of sexual abuse, or some kind of physical abuse as children. And so what they look for is that same abuse. And so to them, if they're getting a fulfillment with sexual, addiction, it's because it's a negative thing, and it's something that's within themselves that they're so adjusted to and they're so used to it. It's just negative, 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 but for so long that's, what they experience. That's their normalcy. So to grow up and be in a one mutual relationship or marriage, it just doesn't make sense. They have to have that. And there's marriages where, men and women have to have the outside person. I mean, for them, to be intimate with one person doesn't make sense. They have two relationships. They don't have multiple. It's the wife and the other woman because their wife doesn't fulfill them in a way that they don't want to take advantage of her. So she's there, she's the wife, she's having intimacy with her husband, but in a clean way, as a wife would. And then they lack that crazy intimacy because they went through a lot of things that taught them to be that way. And so what do? They go outside because they don't want to be embarrassed, to ask their wives, will you do this or with me or for me? Or can we have this kind of intimacy? So affairs aren't just because, people decided I just want to go on the outside and do something with someone else. It's way deeper than that. And once you read the book's not that long. It's like, I think 65 pages, if even that. But it's very detailed. The testimonies are strong. When you read the testimonies, it'll affect you. I mean, I had never gone through anything like that. When I was reading it, I just thought to myself, as much as I love my husband, even though I would know inside that it had nothing to do with me, it would completely change who I was and destroy me emotionally. So, and I know for the same for Adrian. I mean, if I ever did anything like that to him, it would, destroy him emotionally. And of course we all heal, but the book will explain to you in detail what these individuals went through, and then towards the end it explains why they did it, what they went through, what they felt when they were, going through it, or on the other side, if they were the victim, what it felt like and stuff like that. So anyway, after and the book affected me. Adrian will tell you, I, went through the whole book, and any time that I took that book and did any kind of editing or reviewing the book to see if there was, something I was lacking, I was emotionally drained. And I have never gone through it. And I was completely emotionally drained. I would put the laptop away, and I just would lay down and think to myself, that must be the most painful thing on both sides, because that perpetrator, that person that's having that affair, cannot control what's deep rooted within them unless they get help and heal. They're not doing it to hurt you, they're doing it to to fill this void within. So, and then, the person that they're involved with goes through the most traumatic feeling, and it breaks them because it's an ugly feeling. So anyway, we get to the aftermath. After the characteristics and explaining and all of that, you get into the aftermath, and the aftermath is two different sides. One of them is a spouse that went through the other side, the victim, complete victim. And I mean, this person knows why their spouse had the affair, and they're working on healing and everything, but it doesn't make it any easier. I mean, I promise you, when I had to edit that aftermath, I broke down. I went and I sat with Adrian, and I just kind of looked at him and thought for a minute, what would I do? How would I feel? Even knowing that it wouldn't have anything to do with me but my husband, that man that I married, that man that I lay in bed with every single night, that man that's never here. My husband works you know, gigs and rehearsals and, I mean, UTSA and you know, he's always out, and I trust him enough to not feel that void when he's gone. But I just thought about it. I laid back and thought about it. You know, this person did not know either and felt the comfort and the trust. Had no idea it was going to happen. You know, didn't have any idea that the spouse was going to do that behind their backs. So it can happen to anybody. Anybody can do it. I could do it. I'm by myself all the time. It's a matter of choice. You know, I could just be out there doing whatever I want instead of sitting here in my pajamas talking to you on Facebook. I could be out doing whatever I want, you know? So we all can do it. We all have experienced things, but some are more drastic than others. And until you understand that, you won't understand the affair. So anyway, yeah, so the aftermath was pretty emotional for me. Like, I was reading it and just the expression, and I wanted it to be that way. I said, look, if you're gonna give your testimony, I want it 100%. I don't want you candy coating it. I don't want you leaving out anything. You've got to be 100% into this, because I want that perpetrator to know that even though he went, you know, they went, not he, but they, if it's a man or woman, went through that experience and knows that they have this crazy, you know, void inside of them, that they shouldn't make another person feel that way. You know, the act of it, the destroying another person by your actions is wrong. And so, am I judging the person that had the affair? No. What I want to do is explain to them so they can read it and they can have it in front of them and they can feel the same pain that I felt just reading it, and know that maybe it's time to get help. You know, maybe it's time to help yourself so you can heal inside and not, excuse me, and not have those emotions. I'm sorry. And then I took the aftermath of someone that had an affair. And it wasn't that this person didn't love their spouse. I'm talking madly in love with their spouse. High school sweethearts. You know, when you buy the book, you'll read it. Perfect Marriage. And it wasn't till, you know, this person fed the other person what they needed, what they wanted to hear. The other person knew what they were doing. It wasn't the first time they had that affair. So when they came in contact with this person that had the affair, you know, I mean, they were prepared. They knew the steps. They knew what they were doing. They knew how to reel that victim in. And even though that person had the affair, they were also a victim. You know, there's perpetrators and there's victims of affairs, and this other person was a victim because that other person knew what they needed, and so they fulfilled that void, and then they destroyed them and walked out and, you know, traumatized them as well, and almost, you know, ruined a marriage. But again, I mean, the book is not that long. It's unnecessary for it to be like pages and days of reading. I wanted it to be written in a way that when you read it, you want to go back and read it again and again and again, different parts to understand. And maybe you'll see yourself. Maybe you were the victim. And maybe once you read why someone had that affair on you, you'll be okay. You'll say, you know what? I wasn't a bad person. And that's what the contributor that was a victim of the spouse's affair said. You know, her aftermath was genuinely painful. And for her, she wanted people to, you know, read the book and say, it wasn't me. It had nothing to do with me. It wasn't that I was too heavy. It wasn't that I was not shapely enough. It wasn't that I wasn't smart enough. It wasn't that I was younger or older. It had nothing to do with anything. It wasn't the amount of money she made. You know, it just, it had nothing to do with that spouse as the victim. It had to do everything with the, the spouse, the perpetrator. And, you know, he was a victim as a child, and it's just come out as an adult. It's finally just coming out, and it affected his marriage. And so, um, like I said, the best thing for you to do is purchase the book, read it, understand it. Even though you haven't had an affair or you haven't been involved in an affair, if you have somebody that's close to you that has, gift it to them, explain to them, you know, get therapy, go to counseling. It's not wrong. It doesn't mean you're a bad person if you go and get therapy. It means that you're willing to love yourself. You gotta love yourself to go to therapy. So anyway, I'm looking at the time, and I've been on here for, you know, 26 minutes, and I just wanted to explain my book, why I wrote it. People ask me questions all the time about relationships. What I was accustomed to writing was about love. You know, people have experienced love every day. I can sit and write about love all day long, you know, psychologically. But this was the other side, and it actually taught me something about what it is to um, not judge another person. So, you know, if you've had an affair, read the book. And if you haven't, or if you've been a victim, read the book. It's going to help you, because you're going to identify, you know, certain behaviors, and you're not going to judge people. I have no business judging anyone. That's not, again, why I wrote the book. It was more to assist and help people in understanding that, you know, you made a mistake, but don't make it again and again and again and again, and don't, you know, destroy people's lives that you come into, you know, get help. So anyway, the forbidden road, you know, where vows get lost, and that's what an affair is. So click on the link and buy the book, and give me a review. Tell me what you thought of it. It's a pretty strong book, and it has a lot of information. Short book. It won't take you long to read it, but it's very, very informative. So anyway, tell me what you think. I love you guys. Thank you for taking time to listen to me explain everything, and I hope you like it. Thank you.